Hey everyone, what's up? How you doing? We're live. Is it that time Is it that time again? Is it a Keith Duncan again? It is. You know it is. How is everyone? Everyone say hi in the chat. You also look at my fantastic T-shirt that you too can own by going to my merch store and paying me money. Well, most of the money. Well, some of the money. Admittedly, a lot of it does go to the to the place that hosts the shirts. But hey. It is what it is. Oh, there you go. The PASOK symbol is already coming out. It's all good.
Doing some stuff that I should have done earlier. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, it's all fine. We're going through some teething difficulties. Good evening, everyone. We're doing some Keith Duncan. It's time. Yes, join the Navy. Yes, all right, fine. Look, it's a nice shirt. It's the right way round on the actual shirt. Can we move past the fact that it's inverted on camera, please? Can we move on? Anyway, it's a Keith Duncan. You know what it is. We're going to talk about how much of an epic clusterfuck Keith has had the past couple of months, but probably now it's getting worse. And we have some very, very fine opinion havers, the best opinion havers, some might say, including one new face. We've got a new face who hangs out in the chat with you all sometimes. So we're going to start with him, for him to introduce himself to you all.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, hi. So my name's Ross. My Twitter handle is RJCam. You've probably seen me on Twitter posting various memes about Keith. I like to do that sometimes. My background is obviously, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from Belfast originally. I live in Liverpool. I've been here about 10 years, so if there's any questions about the shenanigans in Liverpool Labour, Liverpool City Council, just ask. I've got plenty of opinions about that. In terms of my day job, I work in adult mental health services. It's very interesting. I enjoy it. Politically, I'm a member of Unison. I was a shop steward for a while. And I'm a lapsed member of the Labour Party. So I think technically I'm still a member, but I'm kind of not really a member anymore. We'll see. We'll see if we get a vote in the Liverpool mayoral elections or not. Anyway, so yeah, it's been an interesting time for sure. And thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to discussing, the last year of Labour Party shenanigans. It's been quite something to see, really.
Yeah, it's impressive. Keith has impressed me as he's impressed our next guest, NParticipacion, who you will recognise, not from his face, but from his lovely soothing voice. But his face is here tonight. He's finally put it on.
That's a Twitch streamer face reveal. That's what we're doing. I was going to try and make people at least help me make partner before I did that, but nah, I've got a webcam now. I'm just going to use it. Hi everyone. You probably already know who I am by now. I post a lot of shit on Twitter. I talk a really good game of politics while doing very, very little. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're here to have some fun. And the other, the personification expert and primary advocate is here to curse us with the horrifying visions of Keith. Would you like to introduce yourself, David?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Horrifying visions of Keith, horrifying visions of Wes Streeton taking over after Keith, horrifying visions of Jess Phillips picking up the pieces of Wes Streeton after that. All the great things. Everything that the Labour Party deserves to have happen to it on its own merits. Yeah. So yeah, I'm from podcast is Praxis Cast. I've been here before. You know me well enough by now.
Yeah, it's yeah. Also, the PASOK equalizer is fantastic, as the chat is pointing out. I really like it. Rob, who recent first-time guest, coming back for round 2. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, round 2. I just couldn't get enough. I had to come back. I mean, the topic's so good, can't stop talking about it, really. So yeah, hi, I'm Rob. I'm together with Dave, and I'm also part of podcasting as Praxis at PraxisCast. And yeah, I've recently liberated my brain from thinking about the new carrier fleet of the UK. So now I'm back to thinking about Keith. So everything is well with my mental health.
Well, on that cheerful note, I'm going to open with a question. I always reserve the first question for me. And so I have as a physicist, I have an interesting and important maths question for everyone on the panel, just as a quick test to see whether they should be here. Guys, I need your help. Is minus 13 greater than or equal to 20? Go.
Yes.
I was not aware there would be a test.
Yeah, well, surprise test.
My gut says no.
It's an emphatic yes for me.
Oh.
I'm going to say the real question is, are personal ratings not more important? Because I've seen lots of centrist commentators claiming that they are, although his personal ratings still aren't that great. So I don't know.
I'm just a simple country shit poster, but I'm going to assume here that 20 is greater than 13. And so if we do negative numbers, if I remember how to do these correctly, 20 is still greater than 13, even negative numbers. So yeah.
A clean sweep for the panel. Good, we're off to a strong start. I couldn't resist. I mean, who could resist a 20 points gag? It's how we pretty much always open it. Also, Mark Kanosis making the point that only 40% or so of 2019 Labour voters think it'll ever be PM. I should remind you how to ask questions, because I always forget to do this. You click on the coin with Tony Blair's face on it, you go to ask a question, and you ask, as an example...
That's right, you pay in Sinam Bitcoins to ask your questions.
And the answer is that I know my size and how the shirt fits me, just in case you were wondering what the answer to that question is. Okay, Mark, that's an interesting question. Is Keith? I assume you're not asking whether I'm deliberately showing you how to ask questions. Is Keith deliberately tanking the Labour Party, or is he just so spectacularly shite that he can't help it? We'll go from top. We'll go the same order we introduced ourselves in.
So is Keith deliberately tanking the Labour Party? I don't think he's deliberately tanking the Labour Party. I think he genuinely wants to be Prime Minister. I think that's, I think it's one of his aspirations. I think he thinks he looks like, a Prime Minister in a film or something. I think he's the sort of guy that's grown up and thought, I could really do a really, really good job being PM like David Cameron did. But I think the people he's got in just aren't up to the job. I think they fundamentally misunderstand history, and they're stuck in this kind of this time warp where the only analog they have is the 1980s and the 1990s. So, I mean, I saw a guy on Twitter today talking about, well, even if Keith isn't doing a good job, maybe he can be Kinnock and then the next guy can be Blair. And it's like, history doesn't work like that. We're in a period of history where things are going to be different, and you have to react to that, and you can't just repeat the same 20 years over and over again. So, yeah, I think he's just surrounded himself with people that are just not up to the job. I think he's probably not up to the job, and it's tragic, really, because, past 4 or 5 years, the increase in vote share, the performance in the 2017 general election, 2019 less. So, I mean, a lot of that's been thrown out. It's a real shame, and I think, really, is my view, anyway.
Yeah, okay. NParticipacion, is he doing it on purpose? Is he deliberately fucking shit up?
I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but he's doing a great job of it. I think the problem is that they've got this ideology that I was talking about like the other night, where they think that, well, they say they're there to win elections, but I'm not sure they really, that's really what it's about. And so I don't think his role is to win an election or anything like that, and I don't think he'll ever be Prime Minister, and I don't know if he thinks it himself, but I think they're all subject to this ideology where they think, this is what won in the past, or all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, electability is not really about that. It's not about winning elections. It's something else. It's the ruling ideology of the Labour Party, which is a load of nonsense, really. it's cargo cult shit, and it's kind of a crackpot pragmatism. So it's not really any good that way. I don't think the people that backed him think that he's going to be prime minister either. I think they just got him there to just hammer the left for a little while as a sort of caretaker leader. So whether or not he's doing it on purpose, I don't know, but he's doing a great job. I'm really happy to see it.
Yeah, we are happy about it. As the PASOK Labour logo haver, we'll also be happy about it, I suppose. David, what do you think? Is he doing it on purpose?
I mean, it depends on the definition there of it. Like, what's the context of that? So, is it he's fucking up the party on purpose? No, he's not fucking it up on purpose. What he's doing on purpose is displaying the full broad spectrum of capability that liberalism has to offer in the year of our Lord 2021. It's NParticipation's got it bang on. It's cargo cult Blairism. It's all of the aesthetics of it, with none of the actual substance even. And I mean, I don't think I need to say like what happens when liberals start to delve into tinkering with aesthetics. That tends to go places that we don't like. So yeah, yeah. I don't really care whether or not he's doing it on purpose. What's good is that he's doing it, and I hope he continues.
Well, there we go. Rob, do you want to finish us off, and then I'll offer my thought?
I think he's doing it. He's doing it both ways round. I think he is tanking it on purpose, but that is like the design and the strategy at the moment is to display to the wider electorate or indeed people who write opinion columns in the UK that, you know, this is not Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, and therefore it is designed to piss off people who are on their stream and designed to make them walk away, because they believe that if we, you know, the rotten trots just walk away, then Labour will be appealing again. So I think in that sense, what he's doing is a deliberate, destructive act of the Jeremy Corbyn project that was the Labour Party. What I don't think he's doing is tanking the Labour Party in and of itself, because it's a fundamentally different vision of what that party is supposed to be. I do think very much that he wants to be Prime Minister, by the way. I think, you know, that for someone of that class and that career, it's almost sort of a, you know, it's almost an expectation. Like, he's ticked all the boxes to make it happen, you know, like it comes part of that. So I think his mission, and certainly the mission of the people around him, is to get rid of all the stupid, annoying lefties so they can have, like, I don't know, magical fantasy red wolf fucks, you know, people with red flags on their white vans and, you know, that kind of shit back, because they believe that that is necessary to, fuck knows what, to become Prime Minister. But then what to do with it once he's there, that's no idea. And I agree with David in the sense of what does he think he would do when it's there. That is total cargo cult Blairism.
Yeah, and I was just off on my thought. He's doing the things that are tanking the party on purpose, but yeah, I think the sliding numbers are not deliberate, because after all, we were told literally any other leader would be 20 points ahead, and look at us now. 20 points no. Didn't quite work like that. It's just funny how that happens.
Well, it actually is, in one regard, 20 points ahead. I think it's people who think it's... No. It's... what was it again? I think it was like whether or not people could see him as Prime Minister, and it was like 20 points ahead of no. They couldn't see him as Prime Minister. So he's got there eventually, just maybe not in the way he wanted to.
Yeah, you do. It's a very centrist move to be like, technically he's 20 points ahead on this pointless metric, and so I will have to accept it. Marl Karks, who, by the way, I think I owe a golden tonti to. I don't know, I probably sent it to him by now. A lot of people are owed tonties, and I'm really worried. Asking, can it get any worse? And I will reply to this one with, things can only get better. I hate to. I feel like can it get worse? The answer is probably going to be yes from everyone, and I won't let everyone do psychic damage to you, because we've got like some slightly more fun questions about Keith's potential post-politics life, because, you know, it's coming. It's coming soon, let me tell you.
Well, this is I'm not necessarily in agreement that it's always a bad thing if we just all say yes, it will get worse. Because like, if you're like me or if you're like David, then you are actively and gleefully anticipating it to get worse because that is the only thing that will precipitate the destruction of the Labour Party.
Okay, I'll alter the question slightly. How can it get worse? How do you think it could get worse? And how delighted should we be when that happens? Let's lay some stuff. Rob, how can it get worse?
That's a very good question. There's some way he's gonna like tread on like an exceedingly stupid culture war issue that he doesn't see coming in the right way. I mean, in the short term, all I can think of, but that's because half my brain is there at the moment, is this Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah that like he's going to give some kind of comment that like just viciously pisses off like the flag shaggers or like the Meghan stands or somebody. Like, I think that's probable. But there's some kind of like weird cultural landmine that he's just going to faceplant on for no apparent reason whatsoever. Because that's the only thing I can think of. Because in terms of the structure and the economics, it's all so shite anyway. And it's all just Tory-like bullshit that we know doesn't work. So my prediction is it will get worse and it's going to be some insane cultural landmine.
Oh, I can't wait. I will just note that we had 69 viewers in the stream and I got a screenshot of it and posted it. So just nice in the chat, everyone. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. David, how can it get worse? Oh no!
That's how.
Oh no!
Oh god, is David gone Dalek mode again?
It's so unnerving to look at.
This is the future that liberals want, and we know they want it because they keep moving us closer to that point.
Yeah, David brought props. He always brings props, right? I don't want to complain mid-stream, but like he always shows me up, and I love it. But like, come on, like. If that's your submission, I think we'll have to accept it. NParticipacion, how does it get worse?
I think Rob's bang on with the culture war stuff. I think he's going to do some extremely clumsy triangulating on some issue and just manage to piss everybody off, because whenever he tries to do culture war shit, whenever he tries to do like social patriotism or anything like that, the people that he's trying to appeal to, the reactionaries, they don't buy it. They don't like it. He's still a liberal to them and all that. But it pisses us off as well. And just he destroys his entire coalition and gains nothing from it. And he's going to do something like that. Yeah, it's going to be like speedy boarding for rendition flights, or it's going to be, it's going to be no benefits for anyone except trans veterans, or some ridiculous kind of thing where he tries to bring it all together in just the worst way possible.
He will construct the most lib-brained policy possible and then destroy the entire coalition. Also, thank you to the people, to AD Hawkeye, who subscribed with Prime, and Poundcoin, who followed and was the first person to get like the posting orb gif opening. So thank you for that, because I got to see it on stream. All right, our final contestant. How does it get worse?
Well, I think it's going to be more like a balloon slowly deflating rather than like a specific event which is going to occur to make things get worse. So I think the May local elections are going to be a real indicator of just how bad the last year has been, and I think that's going to be the point where they start to panic. And then I think after that, we're in for the classic Miliband era, relaunch after relaunch after relaunch, where they'll try different backgrounds and different logos and different buzzwords, and it will just get worse and worse. Just a gradual slide in the polls. So the question, I think, is, just how bad is it going to get before they ditch him? Will there be an early general election if the polls are particularly bad? Will he last to 2024? I can't really see him picking back up again, but I don't really think there's going to be a specific event that's going to occur that's going to completely tank him. I think it's just a gradual decline into just, pacification, really.
Yes.
As we've discussed already.
We're going to be talking about it a lot, I think, tonight. Also, Mark Kenosis has offered his thought on what the culture war issue is going to be: a GRA reform that somehow outlaws hetero marriage, which, to be honest, kind of into
I
conceptually.
don't think that Keir Starmer's he's not capable of anything as based as that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's too cool. Like,
Yeah, that would actually be quite frankly awesome, and it would almost be a temptation to like go back to backing Labour just to see how much piss we could boil. Like that would be a good enough reason.
yeah, like I don't know. That's too cool. He could never do it. All right, okay. We'll talk a bit about what we reckon Keith's post-politics career is going to be, because friend of the stream, Farage's F-Face, some of you will have heard him when we did the Tropico streams, which are very good fun. On these islands, even. It's very topical. What's Keith's role after he's ousted? We're assuming he's going to get ousted. Will he stay in politics or fuck off to a consultancy somewhere? Quick answers. Go for him up here.
Who, me?
No,
Who, me?
Yeah.
I think he's gonna. You think he's a quitter? I think he's gonna do the David Miliband, and he's gonna flounce, trigger a by-election, and go off to some, I don't know, highly paid legal firm or something. I can't see him sticking it out. He's not a politician really. He's a what's the word I'm looking for? He's like a spectator. He's someone that just comes in and thinks he's gonna be a big success. So no, he's not gonna stick around. Definitely not.
Yeah. NParticipacion.
Well, I'm tempted to say he would just fuck off and retire to his donkey sanctuary, but I just don't see it happening. He's going to stick around like a bad smell for a while. Like, I think either he's going to go into like some incredibly cursed sort of consultancy firm that looks out for Serco or whoever when they're building their migrant dungeons or that, or he's going to go into international politics like Blair and start, running cover for start running cover for Gulf dictatorships and, all our allies abroad to promote human rights and a strong, robust international order, as you would.
That's made me think of it now. I figured out what it is. Introducing Erdogan's new chief of staff, Keir Starmer. Could it be? Right, David. What's he gonna do? Is he gonna fuck off?
I think he'll fuck off, and he'll probably spend a lot of his time trying to purge the left out of institutions like the Trilateral Commission or the Henry Jackson Society. That's just going to be his kind of raison d'etre from now on, just going places and saying, there's too much left wing in here, and that's going to be it. And he'll be shit at it, and he'll get laughed out of anywhere he goes, because that is also his fucking raison d'etre. So, yeah, I don't see him hanging about for long. I don't really know why he's in politics in the first place. So I really don't see anything being there for him. Like, as for career stuff, he kind of peaked at that already. He's not going to get any further. I don't see him hanging about.
Yeah. As someone has pointed out, he's not a thinker. He's fundamentally a cop. That might impact how this plays out. Rob, what do you reckon? Is he fucking off or is he sticking around?
No, he's sticking around, and the reason for that is, at least to me, is that I do think that in his own like weird way, he is very much a man of like duty and doing his job. I think as long as he believes that he can represent his constituency in his own way and like advance the causes that, whatever causes they are, that he believes in and of himself, except not the ones that are thrust upon him by the clique who's running Labour HQ. I think he would stick around for certainly until he's booted out in an election. I think he really would, or at least for like 2 or 3 more terms, but probably become a backbench MP, and like he'd have like a part-time. I see 2 things. I think he would have like a part-time role lecturing at, I don't know, like the London School of Economics or something like that about policy and statecraft. And then he would have some kind of advisory role, not with the International Criminal Court, but like some kind of organization like that, like heavily bureaucratic, very slow moving, completely captured by Western liberal interventionists who believe that throwing bombs on Yemeni weddings is actually good because reasons. I think that's his speed.
Interpol, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, he would be like
he is a man of duty. Like, I do need to hand that to you. He's a man of duty. You know he's a man of duty.
But like I think
who else
Interpol's
would
a good. Interpol is a good shout. Like he could be on like the Human Rights Advisory Council of the MI5 or something like that.
What he would do, he would start his own opposite of the Peace and Justice Project. That's
The
what he
War
would.
and Injustice Project Keith Starmer. Like,
Just diametrically opposed to Jeremy Corbyn's new organisation. Just every cause that they advocate, he would have the opposite. So like if they're coming out against torture in like Myanmar or something like that, they'd be like, actually the torture camps are good, and here's why.
the torture camps stimulate the economy. That's Keith's official position.
Gets people back into work.
Yeah, jobs. That's what we all been hearing for the past few months. I would like one of those jobs actually, but maybe doing this is not a good way to get one. It occurs to me. Torture recovery bonds is a very powerful bit. Well done, Bubba Tron. Alright, let's see. Okay, we'll do Mr. Gump's question because I find it funny. Have you considered that instead of personification, the Labour Party will instead do the sensible forensic option of merging with the Lib Dems? Which, I mean, they effectively have already, but I'll let you guys offer your thoughts on whether Labour's just going to merge with the Lib Dems at this point or whether it should. Rob, go.
Well, I think for the most part, as you say, this is part of I think one of the core constituents that they're after, which is also matches with who Kieth is, which is a well-off, London-centric, liberal, capitalist Remainer, which is essentially that's what the Lib Dems are. So, I mean, in terms of a formal merger, I think never. I think the Lib Dems are essentially dead. Because Labour is like, for some mad fucking reason, decided to squat on their turf, and they can do that just much better. Like, you know, when's the last time you even saw like Ed Davey on television or something? You know, like he did that. That thing is just dead, except for in like a few councils, and that like I'm not going to call it incest, but whatever they have up there in Orkney. But you know, I think they are essentially the Lib Dems, but they will never become the Lib Dems in that particular way. There's not a merger because the optics would be too bad.
Yeah, and we will not be mentioning what goes on Orkney. As far as I'm concerned, what happens there stays there, and we don't on the mainland where I am. We don't deal with that. You know, David, are they already the Lib Dems, or are they going to do a merge, or what? What do we reckon?
I don't think they would merge. Like, as much as it would be funny, like, I just don't see the will being either in the Labour Party or the Lib Dems for that to happen. The only way that you would ever see a merger of Labour and the Lib Dems would be if a new left-wing party was resurgent to oppose the two of them and they join forces. That's the only way that would ever happen.
Interesting. I have thoughts. And participation. They merge in.
I don't think they will, but it would be very funny if they did for the banter. Because, you know, Liberals have been banging on for the past 5 years or whatever about a government of national unity, get all the progressive forces together, you know, and even people on the left have been talking about a progressive alliance and all that. And this would be the funniest possible option, is if Labour and the Lib Dems and the Green Party or whatever just all merged into this hopeless electoral coalition that still manages to get like 30% of the vote and like, you know, 160 seats between them. So something ridiculous like that. So I would love to see it happen. I don't see it happening though.
Yeah. And our final guest, thoughts. What's happening? Rainbow Coalition, big Lib Dem merger. Joe Swinson, leader of the Labour Party. Maybe.
God. it's like the beautiful liberal dream, isn't it? Bringing the family back together. I mean, they've been talking about this since the 90s, whenever, before the 97 election, they were talking about maybe we should have a Lib Lab pact and we can all form a nice big government and keep the Tories out forever. It's just not going to happen for many reasons. I think there are too many psychological scars from the Tory Lib Dem coalition years. I think Lib Dems are too much of a damaged brand, as we've already discussed. And I think they are genuinely on their last legs, the Lib Dems. You know, I think the Parliamentary Party, I think Ed Davey's really the only MP with any experience at this point. I think the rest of them are all newbies. And really the only thing that's sustaining them at this point is picking up votes in safe Tory seats. So I just can't see it happening. It's it's kind of, I think they're just going to gradually die, and I think that'll be the end of it.
Oh dear. It's happened. Alright, everyone. The first Discord disaster has happened. Hold on. Let me collect everyone again.
He's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. No more libel. Did you do any libel while I was gone? Don't tell me now. But like,
And we just said a few things about Prince Andrew that were all cool.
This has become a Lib Dem Duncan stream for a little bit. We should move on because they don't exist. Like, they functionally do not exist. We will not do more libel. For only 1,000 bits, I will libel a person of your choice. No, don't. Imagine if the Lib Dems were actually a party. Yeah, just imagine. Yeah, but yeah, it's not libel, but I also don't want to risk any kind of controversy on that front. Drone Riff. Okay, given the complaining Labour did about not getting on BBC Politics to talk about NHS pay cuts, what fast shit is Keith going to do next to get Labour back on TV? What do you reckon? What's the next desperate fash bit from Keith? Ross, go. It's time.
Something really aggressive in terms of foreign policy. Like, he's going to double down in Yemen or something. Like, you know, the Tories are going to be under pressure to pull out of Yemen because Biden has. And Keith's going to go, no, like me, I'm going to be a strong prime minister, and we're going to stay in Yemen no matter what because it's the right thing to do. Calling it.
Oh God. NParticipation. What is the next fash turn?
Oh well. There's so many possible ways it could go. I mean, there could be persecuting migrants. There could be, as has been said, just escalating the war in Yemen to the point where we like break completely from the US, which would be hilarious. Have our own version of Vietnam, but sending the SAS to Yemen. I could see it happening. Or it could just be culture war shit. I'm thinking he's gonna just come out really hard against trans people for some reason. It's just because Labour's been trending that way for a while. Every major political party in the UK seems to have been trending that way for a while, and you know, it's about time that he hopped on the train, I suppose, in the bleakest possible projection.
But Bobmatron has suggested that as well in the chat.
Yeah, I can see it happening because that's just a culture war bugbear that just will not go anywhere because the debate must be kept going at all costs to people in our media sphere. So yeah, that would be the angle of attack. If he knew strategy at all and wasn't just stepping on rakes, that's probably the thing he'd go for, just to be an absolute cynical cunt.
Yeah. Okay, David, what's the next fash move? I'm being clear, it's the next fash move. I know the Spy Cops thing was the fash move, we know. We already did that on another dunking stream.
Hugo Boss uniforms for nurses instead of a pay rise.
Fucking hell. Oh my god.
King.
Okay, that just knocked the wind out of me. Like, I don't know where we go from there, really. Rob, where do we go from there?
That's hard. Well, I mean, given that he's sort of chronically behind the ball, and it's been a while since we've had the Priti Patel gunboats with gunboats and nets to capture boat migrants, it's going to be something like he's going to have like a photo op at Jarl's Wood or something. That's gonna be my guess.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a fun wait, hold on. Yeah, any stance on the current Green Party question, which group, I think we'll skip that because the Green Party aren't in the remit of dunking on Keith, and some people are technically still Labour members. I don't want to draw them into getting into that kind of trouble unnecessarily. Oh god, someone's just cheered 1,000 bits. Who am I libeling? Go on, tell me. Who is it? Who's getting it from me? Tell me in the chat. Okay, but Alistair has asked a question. Some people might recognise him from Total War streams where I kept getting owned. Who could have foreseen that someone who has been in national politics for 10 minutes has dog shit political instincts? Rob, who could have guessed this? Could you name some people who guessed that he would be dog shit?
think most of the people currently on this stream guessed it, along with a couple of other 100 people in the general shitpost left. But I do think that it is important, like, to remember what the situation was in January 2020, right after the election. Like, there really was this. I mean, for one, how he presented himself as, I will do Corbyn, but with a haircut and a suit. I think a lot of people were genuinely, they wanted Corbyn, but they saw that they assumed that the problem was the man. That is a very good mug, by the way, Sinan. I think that's like really important to remember, like where it came from of the time, and how sort of everybody was like completely fucking sackcloth and ashes. So I think that's the most important thing to remember. Where this came from, and how much a lot of people, up to some point, myself even, thought, well, he's going to be pretty crap. But like, I don't think a lot of people, I mean, unless they have like receipts, could have said on day one, yes, I said, from before he was elected that it was going to be like this. I don't buy that. Like, unless you have receipts, I don't buy that level of hindsight.
I will freely admit that I was like, I mean, it's gonna suck, but like, it can't be this bad, and then it turned out to be worse than what I said was gonna happen. So I have to take the L a little bit on that one, unfortunately. David, who amongst us, who could have guessed?
I don't like to toot my own horn, but I have been saying this from pretty much the start. Like, Starmer was never going to work out well, and some people, I mean, it's, again, Rob's right in saying that a lot of people were just absolutely fucking despondent and looking for anything that was going to be like the quick fix to get back on track because it was such a defeat. But a large contingent of them were the soft left, who were thoroughly wallet inspected because they've just, again, went straight in for the aesthetics. We'll go with the electable person, etc. Rather than, I mean, if you really wanted Corbyn, continuity Corbyn, you'd have voted for the person who was continually slated as being continuity Corbyn, which was Rebecca Long-Bailey. Like, it was right there. The option was there. We could have had that, but alas, wallet inspections. But some people have been calling this. Like, I know, I'm sure Loki, for example, had done plenty of stuff on the fact that Keir Starmer has all sorts of skeletons in the closet as to his conduct and what he's actually enabled in the past. And that was there at the time. Yeah. People just didn't want to look at it. It's a collective failure. However, it's largely on the fault of the soft left.
Yeah, and I will just call out friend of the stream, Loki, who made the Golden Tonti emote and my first generation emotes. So, not just good at digging up shit on Keith. He's talented guy overall. NParticipacion. Who's been guessing this? Who could have called this?
I can't even remember what my view was at the time, but I'm going to say I pretty much had misgivings about Keith from the beginning. I think because he was the prime ministerial and telegenic candidate, that set alarm bells ringing for me, because I don't trust that. I think like most of us, like, Blairism weighs kind of heavy on how I deal with Labour politics in the present, and so like, if you have this kind of, well, the thing is, he didn't even live up to the hype. He wasn't telegenic or competent or in any way prime ministerial, but people assigned these qualities to him because of the nice haircut and all these other superficial signifiers and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really buying it. I supported RLB and all that stuff, but it seemed kind of obvious that this was going to be walking it back in some sense, whether it was just the not Corbyn stuff or the cargo cult Blairism of it. So, I mean, yeah, if you thought, he might be our best punt, you really did get your wallet inspected. I have a stolen Turkish bridge to sell you.
Oh yeah, I too. And no, I did not steal any bridges in Turkey. I think there was a recent bridge theft actually in Turkey. I shouldn't be claiming responsibility for it by accident. But I will just say, if you wanted a candidate with nice hair, you could simply have voted for me. No, you couldn't have, sadly, but we wish we could have. Right, Ross. Go on, what were your thoughts on Keith at the start, and did you see this coming? Go on, this is what this has become now.
I mean, I never rated him. I remember back, when he was Shadow Brexit Secretary. I remember I switched on BBC Parliament, and he was in the middle of one of his long, boring technical speeches about Brexit. I was like, oh, so this is the Starmer guy who's been speaking at these people's votes appearances and things. And I just remember him finishing his speech, and I couldn't remember a single thing that he said because it was so boring. So that was before the leadership election, and he was clearly doing really well, in the hustings. But again, he didn't really impress me because he is just so fundamentally boring. And I kind of thought, well, after he won, I was like, well, okay, well, he served in Corbyn's shadow cabinet. He's been a good boy. He hasn't been too disruptive, unlike Hilary Benn or some of the other ones. So maybe he'll have the foresight to kind of think about, well, some of this has worked, some of the past 5 years has worked, and I thought we might get maybe a Harold Wilson type of character, like his leadership pitch kind of suggested. But I never in a million years thought it would be as bad as this. I think this is completely different to the Brown years and the Miliband years, where they were grasping for something. There was some substance, but it was buried somewhere, and they were trying to get it, and they were trying to express it and articulate it, and they couldn't. But there's just nothing. There's just like a void at the centre of Starmerism, which has got much more in common with Change UK, with the People's Vote campaign, with the post-Brexit Lib Dems. There's just this void that is just going to consume everything, and yeah, it's just so much worse than I thought it was going to be. But whether that's a good or a bad thing in the context of the decline of the Labour Party, I mean, that's up for discussion. But it's just no, I just didn't see it being this bad. I just couldn't have imagined it was being this bad. But there we go. Here we are, 10 months on.
Ooh, 10 months on, has it really been that long? Also, thanks to Zag for subscribing. You've been subscribed for 9 months, which meant you got the Guga gif of him eating the very nice steak and going, whoa. So I'm glad that we got that on the stream. Yes, Zag, let me know, because I owe you 3 golden tonties. I need to get rid of these fucking things. My partner's getting mad at me that they're still here. To be honest with you. Alright. Friend of the stream, Voice Britannia, who I am going to encourage you all to follow. So if Voice Britannia makes himself known in the chat, people can go follow him, because he does a very, very good PMQs breakdown that I am occasionally on, and I make fun of Keith there as well. We all have to have a day job. Okay, let's consider a worst case scenario. Keith somehow becomes Prime Minister. Okay, we're already beyond the realm of realism here. What are the first 3 things he does? And does he have actual intentions, or are we looking at 3 slabs of status quo? Alright, Ross, what are the 3 Keith policies that he does on day 1?
Okay, he's going to roll the tanks into Heathrow like John Reid did in 2003, because, it's the right thing to do. That's the first thing. He's obviously going to bring back extraordinary rendition because, law and order. We have to be super strong in law and order, and yeah, why not? He's gonna pass some really horrendously regressive piece of social legislation, which is going to roll back trans rights massively. The Gender Recognition Act is going to be massively amended out of existence. So, it's going to be a bad time really for anyone who likes social liberalism, anyone who likes any type of progressive politics. I think there was a thing on Twitter this week about how he was really angry about Gary McKinnon, about how May pulled the extradition at the last minute, and he was furious about this. And that just tells you everything you need to know. He's more socially conservative, and he's more tough on law and order than Theresa May, and probably I would say Priti Patel as well. This is not someone who is a cuddly liberal at all. So expect the worst if he ever becomes Prime Minister, would be my advice.
The famously soft and merciful Theresa May, who did not have a reputation for really horrible repressive laws. That's nothing to worry about, I'm sure. NParticipacion, what are the 3 Keith policies that he does?
Well, it's all going to add up to something like Brexit out of Judge Dredd, isn't it? Because it's going to be full cop zone. So I'm thinking ASBOs. ASBOs are going to come back. That's going to be a flagship policy from the Blair years. He's just going to come right back. Full respect agenda, all that kind of stuff. What's next? Some pointless escalation of our military commitments abroad. Absolutely. Well, and just general turbo Atlanticism. So yeah, there's going to be extra editions. I think, as Roz has mentioned, it's it's going to be fun, and. Yeah, the campus culture war. He's going to do something about the campus culture war as well, guaranteeing free speech by forcing people to platform the most socially regressive speakers possible, because it's important that we have a debate, but only a debate on terms that exculpate the British Empire and British society more generally. So that's going to be the three that I'm going to go for.
Oh man, I can't wait to do my YouTube video about how debate is bullshit. Just already got a topic for the one after this planned. David, what are the free Keith policies?
Jokes banned by 2024. Sex banned by 2027. A cop in every household by 2028.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Also, the idea of ASBOs coming back has just flashed me right back to the worst time growing up in this country. So that's all good. Rob, what are the free Keith policies?
Is it just to clarify? Is this like day one shit, or is this like term one shit? Because like if it's day one, it's a different set because there's only so much you can do.
I feel like it's term. Then we'll say term because it just seems like what are the things he does. So like
okay, all right. Let's assume term one. So there's going to be some nod to unions and like helping actual working class people, but it'll be some incredibly stupid, convoluted way. Like we will raise the minimum wage to the living wage as it was constructed in 1983 in London, with exemptions if you wear a hat every second Sunday, or you're born in Leeds but currently registered in Yorkshire. You know, some kind of incredibly convoluted, stupid neolib way that doesn't actually help anybody in any way, but gives them a bunch of nice headlines. For sure, there's going to be some incredibly stupid transatlanticism. There's some kind of like a trade deal with the United States that he would get done, but like based on the thoroughly useless Paris Climate Agreement. And then there's going to be some extremely awful and vicious foreign policy adventure of like, not necessarily like a full-on invasion, but like, you know, sign legislation that the SAS can go into, I don't know, every home in Pakistan if they feel like it, for reasons of passing human understanding.
Yeah, we missed out one key policy that I think he will do, which is skills wallets. Those are coming back, folks. They're back, baby.
Ow!
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. All right. Tanbu asked a question that I think is relevant to some of our friends. Some of our friends who are in the chat. He said, "What happens to the lefties still in Labour?" I'm gonna put the official stream position out for you all. You should leave the Labour Party. The Labour Party doesn't care about you. It's a piece of shit party. You should work every day to make sure it ceases to exist. On that note, Rob, what happens to the lefties still in the Labour Party?
They will develop terminal alcohol addictions or drug addictions of some variety. If you're staying in this party, then you know either you're some kind of labor pig, which you know if that's your deal, if that's how you want to get off on a Friday evening to be humiliated by West Streeting. Hey, you know, who am I to disagree with you? But I don't know. Yeah, just terminal alcoholism, depression. Like, what the fuck are you still fucking doing in there? Jesus Christ.
All right, David, what happens to them? What should they do and what happens to them?
Dehumanize yourself and face to PSOCification. It's you're going to suffer. You're going to hate it. It's just going to get worse and worse. More people around you are just going to leave or give up and just sink into the shadows. It's going to become depressing. Darkness will encompass you. Your very soul will begin to fray at the edges until you are nothing but a husk. Just leave. Just if it sucks, hit the bricks. Get out. You can just leave.
Also, thank you to Forrest for subscribing on that bleak note. And would also a praise for the skills wallet policy. Yeah, I mean that was the one thing Joe Swinson did right, in my view. Squirrels. I disagree with her on the squirrels policy, but the skills wallet policy was definitely where she and I met in the middle. And participation. What should they do?
What should they do? Well, right. Well, what they should do is leave. We've established that. But what will happen to them if they don't is that they will be whittled away. Like the activist base of the party will be used for, tramping around miserable doorsteps to get shouted at by men in their boxer shorts and all that kind of shit. They'll be used as a human shield, and they will be used as a fig leaf to give the party some kind of intellectual credibility as well, because there's no theoretical basis to the centrist ideology. But if they have some lefties in the Labour Party, they have someone that can point to and say, this person believes in the party, they have a Marxist analysis, or they have a class-based analysis, so clearly if they see us as a vehicle for change, that gives us some sort of credibility. So don't perform that role for the Labour Party. Don't be their human shield. Don't be their fig leaf. Leave. Do not give them any left-wing legitimacy. Just get out of there, because as much as it is a license to participate in mainstream politics, it's also just the biggest time sink and energy sink going for people on the left, and one of the most unproductive ones. So that's my piece.
All right. Well, Ross, I feel like this might be hitting a bit close to home. I'll let you run with the question and just see.
No, totally fair. I mean, I can't disagree with any of that, really. I mean, in my CLP, I've been out supporting council candidates who've been elected, and they've then been suspended by the party for expressing views about Palestine. I've known CLP officers in Liverpool who've been suspended from the party for no reason, basically because they're known to be on the left. So if you want to remain in Labour and you think there's a chance that you can get elected to any sort of position of authority, either by becoming a CLP officer or branch Labour Party officer, or even becoming elected as a councillor, let alone as an MP candidate or whatever, just forget about it. It's not going to happen. If you're content to post leaflets through doors and not have any input into sort of democratic decision making, then by all means remain in the Labour Party. But if you want, that promise of a grassroots democratic organisation is long gone, and Starmer's torched that to the ground. What I would say though is it's well worth joining trade union that's affiliated with the Labour Party, such as Unite, Unison. I mean, I'm in Unison. I'm kind of questioning it at the minute because their general secretary is terrible. But if you're a member of an affiliated union, you can actually you can actually have a chance of getting elected and electing good officers within the union that can put pressure on the Labour Party that way. It's probably more rewarding forum for that type of activity, those type of political activities, and you get to vote on the next leader. So if you really want to fuck things up, if you really want to, cause problems without any repercussions, join a union and do it that way, because your vote still counts. Yeah, but no, do not stay in the Labour Party. It's a waste of your time, and you're going to get nothing but misery if you're a socialist and you want to, do something else with your time. That would be my advice, definitely.
And I will just say, as a general point, the official position of the stream is join a union. For goodness sake, join a union. Dual card if you must. Like I'm a member of the IWW. I obviously, because I'm a Twitch streamer, do not have another union I can dual card with, but my advice is to dual card if you can. And join the least shit union in your workplace. Just to give you... Alright, but I'm gonna pause on the audience questions real quick, because they're two kind of long ones, because we did mention Liverpool, which has been a bit of a clusterfuck, we might say, recently. And apparently the candidate, their name has just escaped my mind. I am so sorry.
Anna Rothery.
Yeah, Anna Rothery. This is why I have guests. Is now suing the party for breach of contract. How badly have they completely fucked this up? Ross, you're in Liverpool. I thought since we ended on you, we're going to be going back to you. You may as well try and walk us through just how fucked it is.
I'll do my best. It's a bit of a disaster, really. So there were three candidates originally. So obviously, we'll go further back than that. Joe Anderson was arrested for what was it? Conspiracy witness intimidation or something, alleged witness intimidation. Hasn't been proven yet, but anyway, Joe Anderson was meant to basically run for another term, and it was expected that he would be elected and there'd be no issues, but he had to step down because obviously this criminal investigation is ongoing. So that opened the door to a new selection process in quite a short period of time. So there was an all-women shortlist of 3 women, all councillors who put their names forward. There were actually more candidates. The 3 women got on the shortlist. Keith came along and pulled the rug under the whole thing, and all 3 were basically suspended as candidates and not allowed to run again. And we were told that no councillors would be allowed to run because they might be implicated in this alleged corruption scandal. And I think what looked like was going to happen was Teresa Griffin, the former MEP, was going to be parachuted in. I mean, she's been the MEP from the Northwest anyway, but there was rumours going about they were going to try and get someone from the centre left or the right of the party to basically be the candidate who had nothing to do with the council. So they had like a really short window where people could put their names forward in like 48 hours, and no one did. This is the hilarious part. Like, nobody put their names forward. So they've ended up with 2 councillors, 2 fairly newly elected councillors, even though like a week or 2 weeks ago we were told no councillors can put their names forward because they might be implicated in this alleged corruption scandal. So it's a total mess. There probably will be a Labour candidate at this point. For a while there, it looked like there might not even be a Labour candidate because no one was willing to be the candidate. In terms of the broader repercussions for the mayoral election, there's an independent candidate who's put their name forward. I think Stephen Yippey's called. He's like the head of a big children's charity in the city. So there's a potential there for quite a dramatic, independent candidate to come in and win the election. I don't know how serious of a candidate he is. I haven't looked at his manifesto or anything, you know what I mean? But it could happen. And in terms of the council, I think it's less so because there's like 90 councillors. Labour have like a super majority of like 60 or 70 of the councillors. There's only 30 council seats up for election. So, they're not going to lose control of the council by any means, but it could still be a very bad night. They could lose the mayor election. They could lose maybe 15 or 20 seats. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. The Lib Dems and the Greens could clean up in the south of the city, winning maybe 5 seats each, between 5 and 10 seats in the case of the Lib Dems potentially. So it could be bad for Labour. It could look very bad. It's a bit of a mess, yeah.
I've just been... Mark Canos has just posted in a chat that there was a fucking zip line in Liverpool. What? A zip line from the radio tower to the library? Which... I frankly have no response for that, to be honest.
Money. We need to get these private sector contracts to keep the city running, don't we? So, zip lines is the way to go.
Good infrastructure investment. It's actually the best infrastructure investment that region of the country has seen in quite a while. It's kind of just unfortunate there. Okay, so... thanks to Ross for filling us in, because I did want to talk about Liverpool, given that it is the big fuck up of the past month. Here's the thing, guys. I was told that Labour needs to appeal to its core voters. The red wall, the infamous red wall. Suspiciously, pissing off Liverpool has not generated this intense reaction. Some might call that curious, guys. We'll go back to Ross. Yeah, what do you think of that? Do you think pissing off one of your core cities is a good idea?
Probably not, no. I mean, I've seen people comment about how this is kind of how the decline of Labour in Scotland began. This kind of taking people for granted, this idea, well, this is our city and we can do whatever we want. And this, I think this happens whenever a party reaches a critical mass electorally where it can't grow anymore and it starts just to eat itself and people become complacent. It's like, no empire lasts forever. No, like massive like Labour stronghold can potentially last forever if they treat their electorates for granted in that way. It's not good. It really isn't good, and I think they're just sowing the seeds potentially. Maybe not this year, but over the next 5-10 years, you could see a decline of Labour in Liverpool because of this arrogance, really, this absolute contempt that they're showing towards people.
Well, it's a good job we got 2 Scottish people on the panel. They can tell us whether this looks like the start. This looks like the start of it. NParticipacion, what we reckon? Is this the beginning of the end?
Oh, yeah, I generally do think so, yeah, because, Scotland was safely Labour for years and years and years. Since the 60s or something like that, or 60s or 70s, and they just shat it up against the wall. It's just horrible. But part of that was down to the SNP providing an alternative. An appealing alternative to a lot of people. So I don't know if like the NIP is going to do something similar in the north or not. But considering the way things have gone before, it could happen. But to be fair, the SNP existed for years and years and years and years and years before they became even significant in Scotland. Never mind ascendant. So who can really say? Taking people for granted, it works out really well for the Labour Party. With whether it's people in the north or Scotland or ethnic minorities or LGBT people, all these people, taking them for granted works out real well for turning them out in elections to vote for you, because it's not even necessarily what they'll say in opinion polls that matters. It's where they actually turn out on the day, where they feel enthusiastic about the party. So yeah, it's going to go real well, I think.
Also, Snug Fever, with any other Labour leader, would have 20 zip lines installed. It's just we do love the 20 related jokes. You will have seen it when the Discord did the thing that my technical difficulties image is Mike Gapes explaining to Keith that he's less than 20 points ahead. David, who made the graphic, incidentally, if I remember correctly, what do we reckon? Do we reckon? Do we reckon taking voters for granted good idea for Labour, especially in Liverpool?
No, definitely not. I look at Scotland. Scotland's the prime example of what happens when you do this. They coasted for years on this and just let the SNP build a nationalist rhetoric behind themselves that they could really push as a wedge issue to separate the stagnancy of what Scottish Labour had become. Now, I don't think that translates equally well in England because of the very different kind of political and type of nationalism layout that you get there, but they're at risk. And honestly, if a left-wing party was to be formed that could have national appeal, it would probably start in Liverpool. And they really, really, if Labour wants to avoid being outflanked hard on the left in a successful way, they should really be paying a lot more attention to what the people of Liverpool actually want. But they won't, because that would be admitting any sort of concession towards the left, which Liberals famously cannot do.
Yeah, so bad luck to Labour. Rob, just general thoughts. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, is it good for them, I guess?
Well, I think in general, taking people for granted is always an extremely good idea that never has any ill effect. So that's just my first thought. No, but my particular thought is that we referenced it, I think, at the beginning of this chat, is that this is essentially more cargo cult Blairism. This is triangulation, but like instead of which they've just like put the pencil in their eye. This is not, say what you want about Blair and Clinton and the Social Democratic parties in the 90s in Europe, but they were led by people who knew how to do that. And it was also sort of a certain time in a historical moment where you could get away, I won't say get away with it, but where you could make that argument and sort of do that. I think we're way past that point now. I think, you could triangulate your way if there's a sort of general atmosphere of global prosperity in that weird sort of 90s bubble that there was. I think, right now, everything is so dire and fucked up and people are so pissed off and have every single right to be incredibly angry, especially young people, when it comes to housing or salaries or job security or any of the myriad things that are fucking us over. I think there's you can't repeat that trick, and if you're going to repeat that trick, you better fucking well be a master at it, and this gang of clowns are not masters at it. It's cargo cult shit. So, I don't think it can work. I don't think it will work because they're not. I think that the broader socio-economic material conditions are not there for it to work in any regard. I think, we're past the long 90s and the consensus. Like it's capital versus labor again. It's poor people versus those who exploit us. And you can't sit in the middle anymore because people I think much more than the 90s, have picked sides. They know who they are, and they know who their class enemies are, or they have at least some perception of what it is. And I think, therefore, like, just sort of pissing in the face of Labour. And I'm still confused. I don't think they ever gave an official reason as to why all the original candidates for the mayoral, like, that was never explained, right, by the party, why that was done. And in that vacuum, people like find their own explanations and they fit it within a broader pattern. So to me, this is like, yeah, it's cargo cult Blairism, and it's a disaster. And I don't like. I want to know who's giving Keith this advice that this is a good idea.
We might get to that actually, but also Zintilface, who I also owe a Golden Tonti badge to, and you should get in touch with me, saying, does this zip line directly into your bins? Does this zip line terminus have to be right above my bins? Yes, has just ended me. Like, of course that terrifying mask debuted on this stream, and you do love it when I get exclusives, and they end up becoming memes. Alright, I'll do Shade of Darkness's question, who, if I'm remembering correctly, has submitted his corrections for his PhD, so we should be like Dr. Shade of Darkness, I think, nowadays, but well done, mate. I know it was a fucking pain for you to finish your PhD, so well done. Okay, his question, and it's a long question, characteristic of this style. Is a split in the party inevitable, and would you attempt to be active in a new socialist party, or do you think support to regional parties and movements is more likely to be the avenue of left-wing politics within the UK, or a one big union strategy? I am obligated to be like one big union, but for reasons we've explained on the stream. But Rob, what do we reckon? What do we reckon here?
I think if the Socialist Campaign Group had any balls or intention to split off, they would have shown any courage by now, and they don't. I think that's because half of the people who call themselves nominally socialist aren't, but are sort of vaguely, fuzzily on the left and just like the feels of it. And the other ones who are genuinely socialist are institutionally wedded to the Labour Party. I'm thinking people like John McDonnell, who I have a ton of respect for, but who keeps trying to do this thing over the last 6 months where it's like, oh, we must build bridges and be nice, and, you know, Keith is doing a really good job, and, you know, like, no, I don't see it coming. I mean, I think if it's going to come from anybody, is it going to come from Unite, is my guess. It's going to come from Unite. That's my, and then some of the other, the Firefighters Union, a couple of the others, they may actually do a thing, but I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I think if you're going to put your energies into something, I think some of the regional stuff is interesting. I haven't looked in well enough into like the Northern Independence Party as to what they want, except for Northern Independence. Like, I just don't know these things. I also think that, like, the prospect of regionalism or regional independence or federalism is very interesting for people who are like quite engaged with politics. I think building majorities to do that is a project of decades. Again, look at Scotland, and even then, push comes to shove, people are terrified of breaking with what they know, which is essentially the long death of the Labour Party, is people being essentially too terrified to leap into the unknown. So that's my thought. I wish it would happen. I wish they would split, but I don't think it's going to.
Zintelface showing respect for my Tonti Dynasty streams with the Big Dara Party. That is the dream, the Big Dara Party. As soon as I take Scotland in that stream, we can all live together, free of the English. Okay, David, what do you reckon? Split inevitable? What would you reckon, basically?
No. Labourism is a disease of the mind, unfortunately, and it's well embedded into some people who should absolutely 100% know better, like McDonnell. Like, well, obviously Corbyn doesn't really have much of a choice in it at the moment, but even then, Corbyn should have been out of there. Like, Sharp, Becky Lombailey, the same. The whole lot of them, the entire Socialist Campaign Group, or at least the portion of them who aren't landlords, should have known that it's not a place for you anymore. Just get out and do something while you've got some sort of momentum, while you actually have momentum, the organisation behind you. But they haven't. As for how things should go from this point, like I'm loath to say that it should go as some sort of like regionalism type way. I mean, look at Scotland. Scotland, you might think, oh well, great, the Labour Party's dead there. Actually, what's happened is the left has been co-opted by a really big, broad church party that is staunchly liberal in all practicality. So you've not really solved the problem. You've just been co-opted to support another liberal project, because as much as that project could turn into anything at the end of it, it's going to be administered and proceeded over by liberals primarily. So I'm kind of loath to say split on regional lines. A big union thing would be ideal, but whether or not the actual possibility of that is really there, it's not for me to say. The Northern Independence Party is the only party that I've seen so far that's actually attempting to run in England on an actual left-wing platform with any sort of like platform at all. So realistically, that at the moment is the best option. Even if it does turn out to be a massive joke party, at least you didn't vote for Labour.
Also, Farage's F-Face saying, I always vote Pirate Party. I am, for some reason, followed by the official Pirate Party of Turkey. I don't know why.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's great. They have like 200 followers on Twitter, and they're following me, and I'm like, they've really sussed out my politics quite well in that case. NParticipacion, what do you reckon? Is a split inevitable? What does a new thing look like? One big union. But yes, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I agree with everyone else that the Labour Party's never going to split. Well, the left's never going to split off the Labour Party because they don't fight. They sit there and take their kicking. That's it. For party unity, because they believe in the party more than the right does. For the right, the party is a vehicle for their careers and for horrible turbo Atlanticist politics. But for the left, it is meant to be this sort of sacred institution, and they're wedded to it. They're welded into its machinery. It's really quite, it's horrible to look at. You feel bad for them. So that's not going to happen. As for anything else, yeah, I agree with everyone else. Again, local causes, regional stuff. Just actually try and think outside the box as well. Figure out new ways of doing things, because even if you back a party that does well regionally or stuff like that, it's going to take decades to build any kind of momentum for federalist or regionalist parties. So yeah, join a union, join the IWW or something like that, and renters union's also a really great idea, because you're going to have to take politics back to the grassroots and build the sort of red bases if anything else is to emerge anyway. So you might as well get started in that now.
Oh, Zintelface, the logo of Labour PASOK is meant to be like a wilted rose, I think.
Yes, it is a dead rose because it is a dead party.
Yes, there you go. And also calling them the sub-campaign group is, well, we're not gonna get too deep into that, but it's a very funny bit. Ross, what do you make of the? What do you reckon? Split inevitable. What is the new thing that's going to come out if there's a new thing? And what do you reckon that avenue is likely to be?
Well, I think first past the post is going to keep the two-party system intact. And I think even if we have 60, 70, 80 years of Tory government where Labour have slumped to like 150 seats for that period, I don't think that's going to change as long as we've got first past the post. I mean, obviously I'm from Belfast. In the north we have the Stormont Executive and the Stormont Assembly, which is those elections are single transferable vote, and in that context it's actually quite rewarding, to get involved with a small party and to build something, and it's possible to do that in that sort of framework. If you look at the example of Jerry Carroll with People Before Profits, he topped the poll I think in 2016 in West Belfast, which is like one of the safest Sinn Féin seats in the country. So like in a six seat constituency for a Stormont election, he finished the top candidate ahead of 5 Sinn Féin candidates. So you can, in an STV election, you can stand as a small socialist party, and you can actually build something that's going to result in people getting elected and putting forward radical policies in the chamber and generally making a nuisance of yourself. I think in England that's very, very difficult because of the two-party system. I think if you're going to join the Renewal Party, whatever it's called, Chris Williamson's party, or I've seen some people saying they're going to join the Socialist Party. I mean, by all means do that if you want, but it's going to be a hard slog. It's not going to be easy, and you're not necessarily going to win council seats, let alone Westminster seats. So my advice would be, if you're a socialist and you've left the Labour Party, focus on union activism, focus on ways of organising outside of party politics, because it's you're on to hiding to nothing really, and under first past the post. I think UKIP maybe had the right idea from the right, where they thought, well, forget about getting people elected. We're just going to change the terms of debate. We're just going to completely move the consensus rightwards, move the Overton window rightwards. Maybe the left needs to focus on doing the same outside of party politics and try and push the consensus to the left. I mean, the Corbyn project has done that to an extent, I think, and we've seen that this week with the budget, corporation tax. But maybe we need to do that in a much more focused way, and find other ways of organising inside the unions and in other forums which are outside of party politics. But we're not going to get distracted by all this business with elections, which can be really draining and really difficult and really stressful, and focus on coming up with ideas and ways of doing that. And let other people take the shit. Let Keith take the shit, and let's focus on the ideas. You know what I mean?
We should just point and laugh at Keith, which is what this is.
Yeah.
An appropriate thing. And also, Jackonaut asking, Canada was close to getting rid of first past the post. Is it like to ever happen here? I got bad news. No, it is pretty much never going to happen here. There is virtually no circumstance in which it will happen, and like the Canadian Liberals, if the Labour Party do win an election on the first past the post, they will immediately decline to change the voting system. There is no way that will happen here, unless you have one of the most pathetic revolutions in history just to get PR. Don't. If you have revolutionary energy, do not waste it on the voting system, please. I beg you, don't do it. But
no, that's some fucking West Wing shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
yeah, please do not do that, and don't. And also, I will just say, first past the post is quite easy to trick into doing what you want on local levels. So if you want to really fuck up the Labour Party, you should target some Labour council seats and be like, hey, I'm not the prick from the Labour Party. And that will get you votes. I hate to tell you, the number of people I see who say, I fucking hate the Labour Party, but I'm going to vote for him. I mean, it seems like there's something there. Anyway, Gamonus, again, I love the usernames on this stream, asking, regardless of whether we could have predicted Keith's lack of political talent, is it surprising that the people advising him have been so shit? I've got a pretty simple answer to that. Which is that it's not a surprise because we knew who the fuck he had on his team, and they were all fucking shit. I don't mean to preempt anyone else's answers. I'll let the panel get into the specifics. A Tanistry revolution, that's the kind of revolution I'm into. But Ross, what do you reckon? Is it a surprise that the collection of right-wing culture warriors that Keith has around him is shit?
No, it's not. It's not surprising at all. I think the thing is, these people view themselves as the custodians of the New Labour years and of the successes of the New Labour years. Obviously, the 97 election, the 2001 election, which were good election victories, fair enough. 2005 less so, because the vote slumped to 34% or something, which is not a million miles from where we are now. But these people have never won anything significant in their lives. They believe that they understand Blairism and the methods that brought about these three election victories that we never hear the end of. But actually, they weren't part of that. I mean, fair enough, Mandelson was, but that was a long time ago, and he's had plenty of failures since then. No, they don't have a clue. They believe it's like West Wing politics, like you say. They believe that they know all the tricks, but it's like book smart versus street smarts. They've never had to apply what they think they know in real life in a successful way. So, no, not surprised in the slightest.
Yeah. NParticipacion, were you surprised that the collection of dipshits that Keith has were in fact dipshits and not political geniuses?
Well, again, no. They're not even I think we think a lot about New Labour, but we also have to think about how the Labour right used to be, back before New Labour became a thing, when their job was to be the perennial hammer of the left, and it was an actual strong left that they had to fight. And so whether it was Gateskill or Kinnock or whatever, they knew their shit when it came to fighting these internal battles, and then once they'd done that, they could erect whatever ideological project they wanted. These people don't know fuck all. The entire political career, the right has been ascendant in the Labour Party, except for the brief 5-year window where we had an ascendant left. And the ascendant left in the Labour Party didn't know how to fight either. And so it was just a pathetic slap fight for the most part, with the deck stacked massively in the right's favour, and them not really even having to do that much. It was mainly the media that took Corbyn out. All their internal manoeuvres came to fuck all. You remember the chicken coup? These are not dead political operators. These are absolute dumbasses who have just been failing upwards their entire lives. So no, I'm not surprised at all.
And as John McDonnell said on the chicken coup, it's a good job they're fucking useless. And, well, he was right. It just turned out that maybe some other people were also fucking useless. Who can say who I mean by that? David, what do you reckon? Are you surprised these people were dipshits?
No, not at all. I mean, let's look at this from a free market point of view, right? If you're gonna...
Oh, no. Oh, dear. You hate to see it, folks. I've cut David off for simply talking about free markets.
So let me tell you something about Prince Andrew while he's gone.
No, he's back.
I'm back, and also, I cut David off because he was doing free market logic. Not a fan. No, okay, go ahead, David. You just started when you cut off for me. So using the logic of the free market,
that's fine.
What are we doing?
Yeah, using the logic of the free market, the best people for the job are going to work at the most successful firm, right? That firm is the Conservative Party. If we're trying to ape that from a less fucking successful one, it's going to be the Labour Party. Anyone with the brains to do the culture war shit and capture that element of the British psyche in a voting capacity, the better people at doing that are already working for the Conservatives. These are the castaways that are trying to do a tribute fucking project to the Tories. It's pointless. It's not going to work. It never was. I mean, the minute I've said this before, I handed my membership in as soon as I seen that Starmer gave cabinet positions to Jess Phillips and Wes Streeton, because fuck that. That was the immediate indicator for me. And these are the kind of people that he has surrounded himself with politically. You can only imagine the type of fucker he has appointed to him that isn't actually an MP. It's terrifying. And it's, like I say, it's pointless because it is just an idiot's tribute to the Conservative Party. And what's the point in that?
Right. Rob, what do you reckon? Are you surprised these people turn out to be complete dipshits?
I'm going to answer this differently and say they're not dipshits at all. Their vision of what their job is and what the Labour Party is just vastly different from what we believe it is and what it should be and what it should stand for. I think they do have a vision. I think if you look at whether or not they're dipshits, if you look at how quickly and how ruthlessly they eviscerated anything that Corbyn managed to build over 5 years in the party, they're extremely good at their job. Like, what Corbyn couldn't do in 5 years, which is purge HQ and put actual responsible adults in there, they did in less than 9 months. That's pretty good. If that's your priority, which it is. Because, and I've said this a bunch of times on the podcast and on Twitter and in a bunch of other places, I think these people are entirely convinced that they are correct, that their philosophy, when shown in what they perceive to be the right way, with logic and reason to the right people, to the electorate, that they will inevitably win because it is simply the best force that there is. The Labour right cannot fail, they can only be failed. So, in our light, is it a hellscape? Yes. In theirs, no, they've got the party back. Generally speaking, they are getting still very good coverage in the media. Keith has a slot on Nick Ferrari's Sieg Heil Hour. He's got, didn't he get a column in the Telegraph or the Times or something? Like, if you're the Westminster obsessed person who thinks that that is the world of politics, he's been extremely successful by those standards. Now, I don't share them, but I do think that if you look at it from their point of view, they have been extremely successful. So no, I don't agree that they're dipshits. Their yardstick of what success is just vastly different.
Okay. We're going to do one final question. I have to apologise to Jackonaut, who asked an incredibly detailed, if slightly off-topic question. It's one that I will answer on a stream at some point, probably, definitely, either by accident or on purpose, so stick around. It's okay, no, it's fine. You don't have to apologise. I did forget to say, but this is the last question before I let everyone tell us all the wonderful things they do, and it's from Jamtapot. Prediction for the rest of this year in the Labour Party, and I will add in a thing. When does Keith go? What month of the next 12 months does Keith go? Because he's going. Rob, what do you reckon?
Well, we'll see after May if he's going. I mean, Labour's already briefing and everybody's already briefing that there will be the vaccine bounce and blah, blah, blah. So they're going to write off a lot of the losses in May to that and not to the structural deficiencies of the parties itself. So I think I won't say easily, but he can pretty well hang on well into next year, I should think. Unless there's some kind of black swan event that by its very nature we can't see yet. So I think he'll just limp along. And the other reason I think that is there's no serious challenger. Like, I mean, come on, Yvette Cooper is a joke and was shown to be a joke in 2015. All these other dogs, like Wes Streeting isn't there yet. Like, he doesn't have his own power base yet. Jess Phillips, not even like these Labour right party HQ bastards are stupid enough to put Jess Phillips in control of anything. No, I think he's going to actually like limp along for a good while, and it'll get worse. I think the most interesting thing, and when you may actually see like some real ruptures, is if this vaccine thing works the way it's supposed to, and people are allowed to actually meet in public again. It's not so much what happens in the CLPs, because those seem to be bottled up pretty well, but like, is there a Labour conference, and what happens then? Because David Evans, for example, like, I know it's procedural bullshit, but he's still interim. He still hasn't been confirmed by a vote of the membership. So, like, I think there's the opportunity for shenanigans, but I think Keith is going to be in there. If nothing else, remember the latter half of Theresa May's premiership. Like, she was awful, and the Conservative Party knew that they wanted to like throw her out of a plate glass window from the 5th floor. But she was extremely useful to catch all the bullets and all the shit flung in her face, to like strap her to the front of the battle wagon, as a sort of human sacrifice. I think if nothing else, Keith will be in that position for a good while. So yeah, I wouldn't hold my hats for an early resignation at all.
All right, David, what do you reckon? Prediction for the next year in Labour, and when does Keith go? Does Keith go even?
I mean, I've seen for a couple of sources the last couple of days, Aaron Bustani and the Shepton Gazette both saying that it looks likely that Starmer might get pushed if the results are bad in May. But I don't think it's going to happen for some of the reasons there that Rob says. Like, the replacements just aren't there. If anyone was going to go for it, it would be Yvette Cooper. I mean, she's already had an entire team set up and then sacked on the advent of really good election results in 2017. So, like, I wouldn't put that past Yvette Cooper at all. But I don't think there's enough real need for it yet. The party can go lower, and while the spectre of Corbynism still hangs over it, I think that a lot of elements in the party right will be quite willing to allow it to continue to go lower under Starmer before replacing them. And if it means a shit set of local elections, then so be it. They won't push until they absolutely need to, and when they decide that the only way is up, that's at the point where Keith will get pushed. So I don't reckon it's going to be this year. I reckon you're looking 1 or 2 years prior to the election, really. Although that is me hedging my bets. If they want to do the Pesocification speed run, please do. Feel free.
Yeah, please persocify yourself, Labour Party. That's our request. NParticipacion, same question. What do you reckon?
I tend to agree with Rob and David here, but I just think it would be much, much funnier if they just all got very, very restless, twiddling their thumbs over lockdown, all that kind of stuff, and just, pushed them and just got them out, just through their own fucking cussedness, not through any strategic considerations, just because they're nasty bastards and have to be backstabbing somebody at some point. They developed a taste for it over the past 5 years with Corbyn. They really enjoyed briefing against him in the press and manoeuvring against him inside the party. So I could see these people just turning on him just for the crack.
All right. Ross, what do you reckon? What do you reckon the next 12 months look like? And is Keith going even?
Well, I think the vaccination rollout is going to be very successful. We've already seen that. There's about 30% of people being vaccinated. Meanwhile, in most of Europe, because of their more fractured health systems, it's proving, because of the regulations they have to go through for 27 nation states, it's taken longer. There's more teething problems. So I think it's possible that by the end of this year, we could be maybe one of the first European countries to have things, something resembling normal again, where things are fully opened up again, where we've got high proportions of the population vaccinated. And if that happens, you could see the Tories go as high as 50% in the polls if they play it right. For Labour, we know from the European election that should never have happened. They fell as low as 24% in the polls. That could happen.
17 at one point, even.
17, yeah. So there's plenty of, it could get a lot worse. Basically, for Labour. In terms of whether Keith will be stabbed in the back, Labour Party typically does not do that. During the Gordon Brown era, what typically we saw was people went on manoeuvres and then never actually wanted to sink the knife into his back, because then they wouldn't get the chance. And again, with Miliband, we saw a bit of that. But so I think probably the one thing that will end Keith's premiership will be an early general election, possibly even as early as next year, because with the budget and everything, the hard choices are going to come in 2023 onwards. If the Tories are riding high in the polls and Labour are just slumped in the early 20s, Boris Johnson could roll the dice again and get a Blair 97 size majority, and there'll be calls from the press for him to do exactly that, from the Tory press, the Telegraph, the Express, the Times, saying he needs to go now while there's a chance for us to do that. So I think that might be what happens. That might be what brings Keith's premiership to a merciful end. And it's also what might end, the project, the centrist project, in a much bigger framework within Labour framework. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But I don't think they'll learn anything. Of course they won't. So they'll lurch on to the next project. So
there's always one more project for these people. But on that note, it's over. The stream is over. I want to thank all of my panel for hanging out with me tonight. They've been great. I want to thank all of the viewers for hanging out with me and keeping me around 69 viewers. I really appreciate that nice gesture from you all. I will just say, if you're new here, drop a follow, because I do this kind of shit every couple of weeks or so where we do a panel. It's not always Keith dunking. Sometimes it's topical and about other stuff. My next stream, I've got the new schedule, so the next stream is tomorrow. I'm going to be playing... What am I playing, actually? The Banner Saga games, because I was recommended that in my Discord. So we're going to be doing some Mike Gates Viking action. But before I go, I'm going to let my guests let you know who they are, where you can find them, what they're up to. So Ross.
Thanks for having me. It's been really enjoyable. So my Twitter account is @rjcam, which is the same as my name on here. Send me a follow. I usually do lots of memes of Keith, and it keeps me entertained, and I enjoy interacting with people on Twitter, so hit me up. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks.
No worries, mate. It was great having you. NParticipation.
I have a Twitch channel that I haven't used in about 2 weeks now, but I plan to stream tomorrow, hopefully. So you've probably already seen me in the chat. I'll just say something in the chat so people know who I am, so they can follow me on Twitch. I'm also on Twitter, but I've been banned so many times. I'm using my Hot Stepsisters account, so it's Patricipacion on Twitter. So you can find me there. I don't really have anything else on the go at the moment, but watch this space. I've got other things cooking on the back burner, so that's me.
Yeah, you've just reminded me. I actually should plug this. I was on the Leftover podcast, Arjan's podcast. You should go listen to it because I talk about LSD, dolphins, and handjobs. Very, very good time had by all. Keith,
yes. You can find me on Twitter at Sanitary Nap Time. Like I said earlier on, podcasting's Praxis. That's at PraxisCast on Twitter. We just had a new episode released today where we talk about the joys of the Queen Elizabeth class carrier and the F-35 and why all of it was a terrible idea and no one should be allowed anywhere near anything involved in that. And next week we will have another episode out featuring friend of the stream, Dr. Eleanor Yanega. So look forward to that.
Yeah, she will be returning to this stream on Sunday, actually, for the new Sunday evening slots.
Hell yes.
A lot of Dr. Eleanor to go around. Rob, let everyone know who you are and all the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm together with David. I'm part of Praxis Cast. David already plugged the last episode. I'm just going to do it again because, like, my brain just went fucking crack ping doing the research on how stupid the fucking carrier is in combination with the F-35. I won't just go listen to it, but it's well worth it. It's really mental. Otherwise, I post on my own account at CountAreThe. But only rarely. I mainly post on the @PraxisCast account. So if you see that account posting around, that's usually me. But there's some other people involved as well. But it's usually me because I have a busy life of having my brain melted over and over again. So yeah,
postal brain.
Yes. And so yeah, that's sort of what I've got going on, and it's been a treat to hang out on the stream, Selan. It's been cool.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you all. Also, Bintaz, thanks for following and getting the Turkish police officer attempting to kick a door in Kieth and then having to be let in by other police officers. That was incredible. It brought me great joy to see that GIF played on this stream where we're pretending to be somewhat serious. I almost accidentally did a poll. Right, no one is live who I'm going to raid. Okay, good night, everyone. We'll see you later. Take care.
Oh, God.